From the Whiskey Tangent Studios in Marlton, New Jersey, this is Whiskey Tangent News.
Hey everybody, this is Ed from the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, back with another episode of Whiskey News.
Woo!
And joining me as always is Scott.
Hey everybody.
And I'm going to tell you what we're going to do today. We have 10 news stories. 5 will be industry news, 3 will be of the financial variety, and then sports and entertainment will provide 2 stories for this month's episode on the news.
Spoiler alert, the last of that story is almost true crime.
Almost true crime.
Yeah.
We'll have a blend there.
Yeah.
And when we say the month, we really mean a few months, because it's been a while since we've done the news, partially because the news slows down at the end of the year, and partially because we've been busy, okay?
We've been busy.
As you know, we went to Kentucky.
Yes.
And that's the only news you should care about, because it was awesome. We'll also tell you about 17 new whiskeys that you can buy coming out this month or recently.
It's a lot.
And then what's coming up on the podcast. I don't know if I said that.
Podcast like you're down in Kentucky.
That's about 1 week in Kentucky. Sneaking back. No, we'll tell you what's coming up early in the new year.
All right, so it is December 2024, and here's all the news that's fit to drink. In industry news, our top story from Inside Hook, American Single Malt, finally, an official whiskey category.
I thought we did that already.
I know, so here it is. Well, that took a while. Back in August of 2022, we reported on a story in Whiskey Advocate that said the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau, aka the TTB, had released its guidelines for American single malts, making it all but certain that the category will be an official legal designation in the American whiskey lexicon before year's end. But then, crickets. However, now just a scant 2.5 years later, the TTB has issued a final rule that was published just last Wednesday, which amends the regulations that set forth the standards of identity for distilled spirits to include American single malt whiskey, which must meet these 5 criteria. Be made from 100% malted barley produced in the United States. Be distilled, mashed, and matured entirely at one distillery in the United States. Use oak barrels not exceeding 700 liters. Be distilled at no more than 160 proof. And be bottled at no less than 80 proof. The final rule goes into effect January 19th, 2025.
So I don't know if this means we're going to see even more single malts, or is it just a formality?
I think it's just a formality, but it could trigger a new round of producers making American single malts. Absolutely.
I mean, think about it. If you're like a bigger producer and, you know, you're on a board like you do, the board goes, well, I see that single malt's a whiskey. What do we make? We don't have a single malt.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, that sounds like we're got a hole in the industry, right? So the question is, how good are they going to be? Are we just going to get some people rushing to market to have a product? Or is this going to create a scramble with guidelines to just kind of go out there and top each other, which would be exciting?
Yeah, like the big guys, right? Jim Beam and Heaven Hill and Buffalo Trace. I don't think they really have any American single malts on the market now.
Right. I mean, Jack Daniels has that one that's in their triple mash.
Right.
And I was in a duty-free shop on Monday. And I was asking, I said, hey,
do you have it?
They're like, no, we never heard of it.
Yeah, see. So most of the ones we can get are from small craft distilleries who have been doing it for a while.
Right, and I say that my favorite American one is Stranahan's.
Yeah, it's a very good one.
I mean, I'm not saying there's not other ones that are great. I admit that my experience with American single malts is probably at around 12 bottles, maybe.
Yeah, it's not very much.
Yeah, not a lot. I mean, even our local one in Mount Holly, right?
The Blue Comet?
Yeah, Blue Comet.
Yeah.
That's a very nice one.
Yeah.
They've had that for a while.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are dozens and dozens of great single malts that I've just never tried.
Yeah. Okay, so the second story I have in here is from the spirits business. Jim Beam launches single barrel program.
Okay.
Jim Beam has announced the formation of the Beam Private Barrel Club, a community of whiskey fans who for the first time can buy their own single barrel directly from the distillery, with Knob Creek Bourbon and Rye being featured initially. During the selection process, up to 8 guests per group head deep into the rickhouses at Beam's Claremont campus. We were there.
Yes.
Exploring the individual characteristics that barrels gain via differences in location. After the tour, the group will taste several barrels and select their favorite for bottling. Members must pick up their cases in person, and pricing depends on yield, with the cost per bottle starting at $60 from barrels that yield 100 to 175 bottles each. Says 8th generation master distiller Freddie No, who we met. The Beam Private Barrel Club is something we've been working on for years, and as we celebrate the 230th year of Jacob Beam selling his first barrel, we want to commemorate this milestone by offering them the ability to own their own barrel. As the sign says, come as friends, leave as family, and the new Beam Private Barrel Club does just that. So if you and your friends and family want to become official members of the Beam Private Barrel Club, you can request a booking at beamdistilling.com/book-a-tour.
It's such a contrast in my mind when you think about a company that has a bottle of Jim Beam, whatever format, white label, black label, Knob Creek, Basil Hayden, in every bar in America. So to be that huge and yet still try to do a barrel at a time with people and have that connection, enough where Freddie stops to talk about it, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, how many can they do? I don't know. Do you know?
No, I have no idea.
What, do they do 12 a day?
So it's like 8 per group, but like, I don't know the frequency. So is that once a week? Is that twice a month? Like, I don't really know.
So I guess my question is, why? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but why? Like, is it a PR thing? And I have a theory. Scott.
Okay.
Brand loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of what he said. Friends and family.
Right.
We are. So, like, if you want to do this, we're now allowing you the opportunity to do so.
Right. So I think this is similar to the dinner that we attended, which is to get some type of loyalty, familiarity, and family feeling from the Beam Distillery.
Right.
They're smart enough to realize that they just can't rest on their name. There's too many players in the game now. You know, you go back 20 years, Beam had much less competition in the market. So I think by interacting with people at the dinners, by doing this program and pick a barrel, because then once they do that, they're going to come back and get another barrel. They like the experience. And then they'll bring other friends in. You should go get a barrel like we did.
Exactly.
And then, by the way, I hate to break it to you, when you have like 8 cases of Beam to drink, it takes a while to get through it. So it's
true.
It locks you down as a Beam customer.
Yeah, but very true. Okay, so for our third story in industry news from Business Wire, Bardstown Bourbon Company launches barrel lease program. So this is another program for barrels, but it's a little different. Bardstown Bourbon Company, a leading custom American whiskey distiller, we were there, and Brindiamo, a global leader in sourcing bulk whiskey, have announced an exclusive relationship to provide a barrel leasing program for contract distillation customers. You see, roughly 1/3 of a barrel of whiskey's cost is tied up in the wood used to make that barrel. And this financing program allows brands to simplify this expense into manageable monthly payments and the flexibility to plan for tomorrow while maintaining enough cash flow to support their needs today. Specifically, the benefits of leasing barrels are that brands can now, 1, start aging their whiskey without paying for barrels up front. 2, access whiskey with lower costs than traditional loans. 3, avoid unexpected financial risks tied to the fluctuating future appraisals. And 4, keep more cash on hand to invest in growing your brand. To learn more, visit bardstownbourbon.com/contract distilling.
I don't say that.
Yeah.
I'm still a little confused.
So if you're a contract distiller, you can enter this program with them. And instead of buying the barrels up front, you're leasing them. So you're paying like a monthly payment so you can keep more cash on hand.
Okay. So let's say I buy 10 barrels.
Yeah.
And they cost, let's make up a number because I don't know what barrels cost. They're all different. Let's say $3,000 a barrel.
Okay.
So it's $30,000. However, maybe we're just sending them like, you know, a G a year and then 2,000 the next year and then 3,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then by that point, maybe we sold some vodka, we sold some gin or something. And so I think that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, that's exactly what this is. It's to help new brands get started without putting up so much cash up front.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the brands, we didn't mention it in our Kentucky episode.
Right.
The other brands that they do that people might know of. So there's Hirsch, Blue Run, Bourbon Pursuit, 15 Stars, Lucky 7, and Chicken Cock are all brands that are sourced from Bardstown Bourbon Company.
Right. Outstanding.
Yeah.
And what I learned also, they just don't pour whiskey and give it to you. Like you can contract a mash bill. They'll ferment it for you. They'll stick the barrels in a certain place in the rick houses for you. Like they kind of let you use their space to create your own dynamic in your company.
Exactly. And it's more like a partnership rather than they already have this whiskey and you're buying it from them.
Right, which some people do.
Yeah, like
absolutely.
MGP, basically.
MGP can do that for you. Though MGP will still age and hold barrels for you. They will. I don't want angry phone calls from MGP on the morning.
There is a story that has to do with a little bit of MGP coming up. So our fourth story is from Whiskey Advocate. Maker's Mark finally has a new master distiller.
It's not me.
Me neither, damn it. In the 2 years since the departure of Master Distiller Denny Porter, which we actually reported on in our September 2020 news episode, Maker's Mark avoided filling the principal role in favor of working with a team of distillers. But that changed last month with the announcement of Dr. Blake Layfield as their new Master Distiller. Layfield, who has a PhD in food science with specific coursework in yeast biology, spent nearly 5 years at Diageo before joining Suntory Global, which owns Maker's Mark.
I don't think I knew they owned them.
Yeah,
I think I forgot.
Yeah, it's been a while, but yeah, it's very under the radar.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, right? In 2022, he was named Head of Innovation, Blending, and Quality at Maker's Mark. As Master Distiller, Layfield will oversee not only the production of their whiskeys, but also Star Hill Farm, their sprawling 1,100-acre property in Loretto, Kentucky, which highlights the natural resources that go into bourbon and stands as an ideal of regenerative agriculture and sustainable farming practices in the area.
Well, that's interesting. I'm good for Dr. Blake or whatever his name is. What's his name?
Dr. Blake Layfield.
Yeah.
He sounds like who Joey played on Days of Our Lives.
Right,
Dr. Drake Ramore.
It's like, it's interesting.
I thought it was interesting that they didn't have a master distiller for 2 years.
It actually amazes me that they have a master distiller at all. When you think about how many barrels and bottles are being put out by these places, it certainly isn't one guy walking around and tasting every barrel, right? You have to have teams of distillers.
Yeah, you definitely have like an apprenticeship thing going on. And
right. I mean, it's not amazing. Just one guy that's kind of overseeing. And I don't know if he spot tastes. It'd be interesting to see what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly not changing the flavor, but is this creating new product or is it about consistency? I don't know. I'd love to know more about what made this decision happen and why him.
Right. Unfortunately, that wasn't in the article.
No.
No, those are good questions, though.
I'm nothing if I'm not good questions, Scott.
And the last story in industry news, it's basically a list of whiskeys. This is Whiskey Advocate's top 20 list, 3 of which we tried on our trip, and 1 more they're actually going to try later tonight.
Nice.
I'm not going to go through all 20 because that's just dumb. But just some highlights. So number 19 was Star Ward. You remember doing the Australian whiskey?
Yes.
The other whiskeys of the British Empire with Brian. They have a 3-year, 100 proof Australian single malt finished in American red wine barrels. So that finished at 19. The 2XO Kiowa blend.
Right.
Which
Oh my God. That's so weird.
Yeah.
We tasted that in a bar. We didn't go to 2XO.
No. That's named for an island off the coast of South Carolina. Kiowa Island.
Yeah, okay.
Number 13, the Knob Creek Bourbon Times Rye, which is the one we're going to taste.
Right. In our quick taste, we're going to do after the news.
Come out in a couple weeks. Number 12 is Angel's Envy Cask Strength Port Wine Barrel Finished. We tasted that on the tour.
At the tasting at the distillery, correct?
Yeah.
Delicious.
Number 10 is Bernheim Original Barrel Proof, batch A224. We are not real big fans of the Bernheim regular, but their barrel proofs are really getting a lot of traction.
I mean, I'm going to have to try one, but I've avoided that several times because I did not like the regular. I'm like, why would I like more of it?
Yeah. I know. I get you. Number 5 is Heaven Hill's 7-year Green to Glass, their 2024 release.
Yeah, I could have bought that at the distillery. I don't know why I just didn't.
It's like $100.
Yeah,
it's not cheap.
There was 3 of them. I think that's another thing. There was 3 options. I'm like, I don't know which one to buy. I'm frustrated. I'm not buying all 3, so I walked away.
Right. Number 4.
I had a little mini whiskey tantrum.
That could have been the name of our podcast.
It could have been that. Yeah. Sometimes it is the name for a podcast. It's the Whiskey Tantrum podcast.
We could go another direction to do Whiskey Tantric.
Maybe on our Christmas episode when the ladies are.
That's right. Number 4 is the Bardstown Bourbon Company's collaborative series Amrit barrel finish.
Right, which we tried in the tasting bar.
Yes.
At Bardstown.
And it was delicious.
It was delicious. And I'll tell you right now, everybody, Scott sat long and hard. And I think, if it had just been, if all we were doing was a Bardstown tasting, he would have bought it. But $149 bottle with everything we had to buy and everything we had to do, it was very close to pulling the trigger. I saw him.
Was doing the calculus in my head. Yeah. It's like, that's less money for more bottles later.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's just like, no. I'm not doing it.
That's exactly the noise I made.
Had it been 129, he probably would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
If it had been 100, he would have definitely bought it.
Oh, for sure.
Would have definitely bought it.
That was a no-brainer at 100.
So it's like, it wasn't like we bought nothing there. We'd already figured out we were going to buy a certain amount of bottles, and this would have been on top of that.
Right. That figured into it as well.
So we would have spending close to $300 at just that distillery.
Yeah.
Which I know some of you out there are like, so what? You're in Kentucky. You don't be.
Well,
we don't live like you, okay? You don't know me.
You don't know me. So the top 3 are all scotches. Lagavulin 12-year, something called the Ink of Legends. Bruichladdich is an 18-year, and Lefroy Elements 2.0 cask strength. We don't nothing about them because that's scotch. But
and smoky scotches,
peaty
scotches that we don't do anyway.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad you enjoy them.
Okay, so now we're doing financial news. We have 3 financial stories, starting with the spirits business, and these are kind of depressing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be all right.
Okay. Is the great American bourbon bubble starting to burst? There has been a growing concern in American whiskey that the bursting of the so-called bourbon bubble was inevitable. After all, constant growth and expansion isn't sustainable forever, and as pandemic-related purchasing trends have slowed, there are signs of what a market contraction actually looks like. For example, as the industry boomed, brands would turn to MGP and others to purchase wholesale whiskey to get to market faster. But just last month, MGP announced that it would be reducing production in 2025 in order to focus on its branded spirits instead. Additionally, as we just reported, Bardstown Bourbon Company is trying to fill the gap by making it easier for brands to enter the market with innovative financial incentives. To be sure, establishing a distinct identity is key for non-distiller producers, aka NDPs, but with the market saturated with so many of them, consumer fatigue is a natural consequence. Indeed, as Lost Lantern co-founder Adam Polanski, who you met, says, even though there's more whiskey out there than ever before, it feels like there's not all that much product differentiation between a lot of the NDPs. However, not everyone thinks it's all doom and gloom for the industry. Just this past July, the contract distilling operations Eastern Light Distilling and Whiskey House of Kentucky began production, and former Garrett County distilling master Lisa Roper Wicker is hopeful for the category's prospects, saying good money follows good whiskey. If you have a solid story, you're authentic about what you're doing, and you're smart about how you enter the market, I don't think it's a bad time to start a brand. I like to say that the bubble is deflating, not bursting.
Well, I have to say the same thing. It's literally fine, in my opinion. I think, the rumor of bourbon's death is much over-exaggerated, or whatever that saying is. But first of all, there's so much I want to say on this. MGP is doing exactly what I said they were going to do.
Yeah.
They put their own brands out. They bought some of the brands that they were distilling for. And then I said to Scott, well, then aren't they going to be competing against themselves? And they are. So the way you stop competing, you just stop giving people your whiskey.
Exactly.
And you might not even know what MGP's brands are. That's the thing. That, most people don't understand that Luxaro is MGP.
Yeah.
All the Remus products are them. That the old Ezra is them. The Ezra Books is them.
Penelope.
The Penelope is one they own.
Yeah.
Davis County, which is being phased out for those who don't know it, all the Davis counties were MGP. So second of all, we used to have two big booksellers, right? We had Barnes and Nobles and we had Borders. Well, Borders isn't around anymore.
Yeah.
The ones that aren't special enough, that aren't delicious enough, are going to fade and they're going to go out of business. And it's okay. It's perfectly okay. Not for them. Sucks for them. I mean, Jim Beam, like we said, they realized they got to stay in the mix. 10 years ago, they hadn't changed much. Then the Knob Creek Rye came out.
Yeah.
Now there's a different Basil Hayden every freaking year.
Yeah.
Whether you like them or not, I don't love all of them, but I love the effort.
There was a lot of differentiation with the big distillers because they were seeing what the smaller distillers were doing.
Right. Wild Turkey, they came out with stuff.
Jack Daniels,
they were a huge stick in the mud for years.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Jack Daniels. Yeah, Gentleman Jack. And then,
that was it.
And then they had Jack Fire, which they thought was real crazy. And then they came out with Jack Apple, which was a sad mistake. But then they came out with Bonded Rye, Triple Mash.
Yeah.
Their single barrel whiskeys, if you've never had them, are extraordinarily good. They don't taste anything like the traditional Jack Daniels.
Sinatra releases, and they have a bunch of special releases too. Yeah.
What you have to understand is that we're all old, right? You talk to a 25-year-old, he doesn't know Jack Daniels was Sinatra's brand. He doesn't even know who Sinatra is.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't just sit around and be the dinosaur and expect all of us to keep drinking Jack Daniels.
That's absolutely true. I think the fear is that it's going to go back to when it died in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, when there was a lot of contraction and there was only like 4 major distilleries and they were producing just very basic stuff. We don't want that to happen again.
It won't happen again.
I agree, but I think that's the fear that people have.
Because I think here's the thing, like New Riff is going to thrive. Very affordable whiskey, and it's very, very good. Smaller places like Journeyman and Few, because of the uniqueness, they'll survive. They'll do okay. Now, Barrel, we've heard, has been in trouble. Well, I can tell you why. Barrel has been sourced their whole life, for sure, and they do it very well. But here's their problem. They have no base that's under $100. You know what I mean? They came out with Stellum, and then they immediately put out $100 releases of it. They don't have that Wild Turkey 101 or that, Jim Beam Black to have steady money coming in.
Yeah, a lot of their expressions are just one-offs.
Yeah, and they're super expensive, and they don't have a sense of humor on top of that. But that's just my opinion. Listen, I've never had a bad barrel product.
True.
Never bad. Some are better than others, but never bad.
No lies.
And yet, if they're struggling, why? Well, I think it's because sometimes you don't want something 125 proof. They have a much more niche market than they realize.
Yeah, you just want something to drink.
Right. Like, for example, Four Roses is great. You can go there, you can get the regular 80 proof, whatever it is, or you can get I think the small batch is like a 90 something. Yeah. Then the small batch select is like 102, and the single barrel is 100. So it's like they have different proof points of what you can reach. It doesn't have to be 131.
And not crazy expensive.
All the ones that I mentioned are under $65.
That's right.
In fact, we're going to be sipping on a Four Roses in a minute.
We are. Spoiler
in fact,
alert.
I just poured it.
Oh, all right. So another sort of bad news is from the Robb Report. Rare whiskey sales plummet. This past year has been a trying time for the spirits market, and the latest bad news applies specifically to sales of high-end whiskeys at auction. According to the Financial Times, the market for rare scotch has plummeted, with auction sales of collectible bottles decreasing about 40% over the past year, which is a pretty significant decline in an already softening market. And with possible Trump administration tariffs looming, the outlook is bleak.
Hashtag rich people problems.
Yeah, it's true. Additionally, the poor state of the global economy is leading consumers to cut back on purchasing, says Duncan McFadzean, head of food and drink at Noble & Company. Coming out of the pandemic, the industry thought it was going to be the roaring 20s again, but the reality has been much tougher. They ran into the wall of the cost of living, volumes have been falling, and you've had profit warning after profit warning from major corporations. Indeed, in recent weeks, Diageo's stock value decreased dramatically, while Pernod Ricard reported declines in high-end spirit sales as well. But Johnny Fowle, global head of whiskey and spirits at Sotheby's Auction House, says producers have only themselves to blame after marking up prices way too high with the assumption that they will command the same prices they once did. It's understandable not to want to leave profit on the table, he says, but it's a short-sighted endeavor that's pricing investors and drinkers out of the market.
Absolutely. So what do I want to drink? Do I want to drink a barrel-proof product that's $110, $120 when I can get a pure Kentucky XO from Willett
Exactly.
for 114 proof for $45 a bottle?
Exactly what we were just saying when we're comparing barrel to Four Roses.
Right. Another thing that pisses me off is you get a boom, right? So you get the boom of the pandemic. You get the boom of everyone in the industry. Everybody is excited about new whiskeys. Your profits go up 300-400%. Then they come back down to where they're still up 100 or 200% from where they were 10 years ago.
Right.
And now you're failing.
Yeah.
Well, it's called an ebb and flow to a market. You're not failing. It would be like this. If you max out all your money and then you get a raise and you buy a bigger house and a bigger car and you still live check to check.
Right.
So that's what I feel like the whiskey industry does. Like they get a boom of money. They sell some whiskeys. They put out some higher end stuff. They raise prices on their other stuff because it's selling. Well, might as well make the money.
Yeah.
And then people go try other stuff and then they don't adjust their price at all because of pride or ego or market positioning.
Again, it's the short-sightedness
Right.
of all that. Like, and that happens not in just the whiskey industry. That happens in every industry. And the pandemic was hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime event.
Right.
Like, you have to compare your sales to before the pandemic and to now, not what happened during the pandemic. That was crazy times.
All the people we know are still drinking whiskey, so I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
I love the term consumer fatigue. We're tired of everybody come out with the new $125 bottle. So for a while, we tried to play, let's go try everything. Now there's just too much. We can't try everything, so then when you're not trying everything, a lot of times you're like, I'll just try what I know.
Agreed.
And I'm constantly working on my retirement bar, those bottles that are 60 and under and sometimes 30 and under that really hit the mark.
Yeah, we're supposed to do a short about that. We never did it.
Yeah,
we'll do it.
Well,
Yeah.
we're not ready to retire yet.
There you go.
Right. So
You're kind of retired, but you're still
I
working.
retire in the morning and then I work all day.
Yeah.
I just change jobs.
I get tired and then I get tired again. So that's retired.
Right. It's worse when I'm late. When I'm tardy, and then when I'm late again, I'm retarded.
Oh my God. All right, so the third and last story in financial news is from Whiskey Advocate. Kentucky Owl set adrift amidst parent company's bankruptcy. A bankruptcy filing by the Stoli Group has created uncertainty for its Kentucky Owl whiskey brand and its planned Kentucky Owl Park Distillery and Visitor Center in Bardstown, Kentucky. We were there. That project, announced soon after Stoli USA acquired Kentucky Owl in 2017, is envisioned as a 420-acre campus complete with distillery warehouses, a bar, a restaurant, a hotel, and even a light railroad. Plagued by delays from the start, this move cast doubt on whether it will come to fruition at all. Kentucky Owl rose to fame in 2014 when whiskey entrepreneur Dixon Dedman, now at 2XO, revived the brand originally founded in 1879 by his grandfather. It was an overnight sensation and became one of the most sought-after whiskeys on the market, leading to its acquisition by Stoli. And under Stoli, Kentucky Owl has continued to release excellent bourbons and ryes, with all but one scoring over 90 points at Whiskey Advocate. And yet, Stoli Group USA's filing was prompted by financial difficulties resulting from a recent downturn in the drinks business, as we've been talking about, as well as being hit by a major cyber attack. Additionally, the company's flagship brand, Stoli Vodka, which sells an estimated 1 million cases in the U.S. now, has been on a steady downward path since 2020, again pandemic, when it sold almost 2 million cases.
Now, kids at home, listen, you don't know Stoli, but when I was in my 20s, Stoli was the best vodka in New York City. Like when you went to a martini bar, you wanted a Stoli martini. Now, everyone got into the Scandinavian ones like, Belvedere and Grey Goose. Stoli, you still get it for like $32 a handle. Like
That's
there's
cheap.
no reason not to drink Stoli. And they were pretty quick to have flavored vodkas as well.
Right, yeah. It was a big party staple in college.
Right, yeah.
What do you think about Kentucky Owl, though?
I've enjoyed Kentucky Owl. I have to be honest, for many years when I was just getting into whiskey, I go into a liquor store, I'd buy something up behind the counter. There'd be like 3 Kentucky Owls for like 150, 160 bucks. I'd be like, I don't know what that is.
I know. Some of them are very expensive.
Yeah, so when we were at the Owl Tavern in Kentucky,
Harrodsburg, yep.
evidently that guy
Dixon Dedman
had hung there. And
that's right.
Did he own it at one point? I think he owned it at one point.
Right. She told us a story.
That's why I think it's the Owl Tavern.
Yeah. So it was some relationship to him and the brand.
And they had a very good selection. In fact, that's where we drank the Kiowa.
That's right.
2XO, because they had a lot of his products there because of the affiliation.
Right.
And I mean, so once again, here's the big thing. If Kentucky Owl goes away, okay, that's not crushing the bourbon industry. It'll be fine. Somebody will take their $150 and go buy,
And he was sourcing that anyway, right?
Right.
It wasn't
It's
his
all
own.
sourced. Right.
He wasn't creating it his own distillery and the mash and all of that. He was sourcing it possibly from MGP or some other place, maybe Bardstown.
Yeah, sourcing is amazing how everything can taste a little different by your blending and your mash bills. It's actually a very fascinating thing.
Yeah. So next up is sports and entertainment. We have 2 stories. First is from the drinks business. Major League Soccer names official whiskey sponsor. Major League Soccer, the highest level of association football in North America, has announced a multi-year partnership with a whiskey brand, but it's neither American nor Canadian. Instead, the official whiskey of the MLS is in fact a Pernod Ricard-owned Irish whiskey brand. Do you have a guess?
I mean, Jameson?
Jameson is it.
That's the only one I can think of being worthy of.
Yeah. Additionally, Jameson will become the official whiskey of 6 individual teams: the LA Galaxy, the Houston Dynamo, the Chicago Fire, and the San Diego, Orlando, and New York City football clubs. Jameson has become increasingly involved in soccer, with the Pernod Ricard North America CEO and chairman Connor McQuaid stating, "Soccer is skyrocketing in North America and has some of the most energetic fans. We can all relate to that feeling of a shared connection and camaraderie, and we can't think of a better partner to bring that warm and welcoming spirit to fans." Founded in 1993, Major League Soccer now has 30 teams, 27 in the U.S. and 3 in Canada. Each season culminates with a series of playoffs for the MLS Cup, which ended just a few weeks ago and was won by the LA Galaxy for the 6th time.
Wow. I just had a shot of Jameson bought for me on Thursday.
Oh.
So I just recently drank Jameson.
Just regular old Jameson.
Regular JMO.
All right.
That's what you call it over here.
So the second story, the last story that we'll do before we get to the new whiskeys, like I said, I teased that it was a little bit of true crime.
Right.
All right, here we go. From CNN.com, Conor McGregor gets dropped by Proper 12.
How's that even possible? I thought it was his whiskey.
Well, listen. Conor McGregor will no longer be the face of Proper 12, the popular Irish whiskey brand that he helped create, after a civil jury found him liable late last month for raping a woman in a Dublin hotel room in 2018, awarding her over $260,000.
Seems low, by the way.
Yeah, it does. Although McGregor sold Proper 12 to Proximo Spirits in 2021, his face was still featured in marketing materials for the brand, helping it become the 3rd best-selling Irish whiskey in the United States, behind Jameson and Tullamore Dew.
Trash.
Yeah. However, after the verdict, Proper 12's website went offline and McGregor's face has been scrubbed from the brand's Instagram account. Additionally, several retailers in the UK and Ireland have removed Proper 12 from their shelves, and game developer IO Interactive said it will end its partnership with McGregor, whose voice and likeness has been featured in its popular Hitman video games. For his part, McGregor says he's instructed his legal team to appeal the decision.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd like to be shocked here, I
know. I mean, that poor woman. But we are not shocked.
No. Everything he's ever done screams, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Everything. Never came across to me as a nice person.
So I just checked, and their website is back up now, but Conor McGregor is nowhere to be found on it. They scrubbed him even on their Our Story page. It mentions nothing about the history of McGregor or how he started the brand or anything like that.
That's actually funny. That's actually kind of changing history. You should be like Our Story. Then the last paragraph is, he sold the company to us in 2021. End of story.
Right.
You don't have to mention anything about the...
It could have been one sentence.
Yeah.
No, but they didn't. That's how bad it is.
Yep. We know Proper 12.
That's right. Yeah.
We know you're in bed with a terrible person.
We've known, I think it was like first or second news episode, we started doing stories on him and just ripping on him.
Oh my God. Every time it comes up, it pisses me off.
Yeah.
There's certain people I hate for being rich, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
Well, now he can't really enjoy it, can he?
He can't.
There you go.
There you go. All right. So the next thing we do are all the new whiskeys that you can buy this month or the past 3 months. We haven't been on it. So the first one I have is, I found this super interesting. Baker's 7-year High-Rye single barrel.
Yes.
Jim Beam has unveiled a new expression to its Baker's lineup, complementing its 7-year single-barrel bourbon, with the only difference being that the new whiskey has twice as much rye content in its mash bill.
The High-Rye bourbon, then?
Yes.
Okay.
So basically using the same one as Basil Hayden and Old Grandad instead of the one used for Black Label and Knob Creek. It's 107 proof, 7 years aged. It's 63% corn, 27% rye, 10% malted barley, caramel, brown sugar, snickerdoodle, candy corn, oak, dark cherry, dark chocolate, raspberry, cola, peanut butter, and macadamia nuts. The MSRP is $75.
That's interesting. I would drink that.
Yeah.
I will say that Jim Beam would have been nice if you had that, laying around the gift shop when we were trying to buy cool stuff.
Didn't see it.
They didn't have that there.
No. The next one is Blue Note Honey Bourbon Cask.
It'll be good.
So
Blue Notes never let me know.
Yeah, so the last quick taste short that we did was on Blue Note's Honey Rye Cask, which we all liked quite a bit, and now they're out with a bourbon version. Sourced initially from Green River, whose barrels were dumped, filled with honey, dumped again after a time, then refilled with the original bourbon. It's 115.7 proof, 3 years aged, 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley, vanilla, cedar, nuts, leather, pear, and wildflower honey. MSRP is $65.
This might be just for you and me, Scott.
Yep.
Green River is a distillery, right?
Yes.
What was the one that Bardstown put out?
Green River.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That sounds like a conflict.
I believe it's the same Green River.
So they source for Green River?
Yeah.
And then Green River gives some of that to Blue Note?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next one is Blue Run Ember. Award-winning Blue Run Spirits has launched a new limited edition expression just in time for the winter months that has the perfect flavor profile to complement the cooler temperatures. It's 128.8 proof. There's no age statement or mash bill. Jasmine, cocoa, orange, cinnamon, honey, and a sweet wood spice. Available online and in stores in Illinois, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Florida. The MSRP is $130.
Right. So if Kentucky Owl goes away, there you go. There's where your 130 goes. You're walking down the street to Blue Run.
Yeah.
And we've had a couple Blue Runs. They're
couple.
really, really good. But once again, I don't know why is everything got to be 128.
I know. I almost sought this out for our Christmas episode that we did last week.
Okay.
But actually are recording it later tonight.
Right.
We're in the Whiskey Wormhole.
Yeah.
So we had 2 Booker's expressions came out while we were on break and in
Okay.
Kentucky. The Master Distillers batch, the 3rd Booker's batch of the year, is named in honor of all the Master Distillers admired by Fred No, Beam's Master Distiller, who we met. Who, as a younger man, watched as a group of distillers, including his father Booker No, brought bourbon out of a prolonged slump and back into the hearts and homes of American whiskey drinkers.
Right.
It's 130.3 proof, which is pretty high.
Yeah, it's high for Booker.
Yeah, 7 years, 8 months, 7 days aged. Oak, pralines, roasted peanuts, caramel, sweet tea, cooked apples, bananas, and cinnamon. MSRP $100.
Yeah, see, the Bookers are still very reasonable. I might go buy one. I might go buy that.
Oh, all right.
And the Master Distills he's talking about, by the way, are, Jimmy Russell and Elmer T. Lee, right? Guys that kind of were the pioneers of the second coming of bourbon.
Right, who played poker together, as Ed told the story on our part 2 of our
Kentucky trip. That
episode
talks about
79.
how Dwight from Wild Turkey told us how they would play poker once a week. And I wonder if they each had their own bottles or they would drink each other's bottles.
Right, oh yeah, that's a good question.
So it's like, Elmer's really sitting with a bottle of Blanton's and Jimmy also got like the Wild Turkey 101.
I would like to think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So the second one is Jimmy's batch. The final Booker's batch of the year is named after Master Distiller Jimmy Russell of Wild Turkey, a living bourbon legend and a great friend of Booker No, the brand's namesake. Jimmy would often bring new product ideas to Booker, a competitor, which taught Booker's son Fred, who we also met, the importance of trust, respect, and friendship. It's 125.8 proof, 7 years, 9 months, 19 days aged, orange toffee, oak, caramel, fruit pastry, peanuts, butterscotch, and gingerbread. MSRP also $100.
I'm concerned that Jimmy's health is precarious. He's getting a lot of honors and a lot of people are mentioning to him.
He's 80?
No, he's more than 80.
Is he,
I think he's more than 80. So hopefully
In his 80s, for sure.
he's up there. And I just hope he's doing okay.
Yeah. The next one out is Crown Royal 12-year Reserve.
Ooh.
Crown
You
Royal.
know I got a secret
I know.
Crown. I got a little secret Crown Royal crush. I know.
This is the only reason I put it here.
It's so drinkable, man. I mean, god damn, I just love drinking it. It's what it is. It is what it is. The regular one, and I love my XO. The Crown Royal XO is my favorite Crown Royal.
That is a very good expression by
Oh,
them.
my God.
For sure. Crown Royal has announced a new Reserve Blend whiskey, part of the brand's Premium Master Series, which is a new permanent addition to the company's lineup, replacing their non-age stated Reserve Blend. So basically, they had a Reserve, and now they made it a 12-year.
Right.
80 proof, 12 years aged, no mash bill, rich vanilla, apple, pear, caramel, toffee, subtle spice, and toasted oak. I feel like you could say that about every Crown Royal
Yes.
expression. The MSRP is $50.
Right, and that's why I love Crown Royal. The XO is like $41.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
The next one is Four Roses single barrels.
Oh, here we are.
3 of them. So every year since 2004, Four Roses has released a single barrel bourbon. And while the barrels have varied, there's been one consistent thread connecting them. They're all made with the distillery's OBSV whiskey. That's their High-Rye mash plus their V yeast strain. But now Four Roses has begun releasing single barrels using their other 9 different recipes on a rolling basis. So the first 3 releases are the OESK, and that's the version that you got and brought back from Kentucky.
The only difference is mine will be cask strength. The ones to the store are 100 proof.
Correct. So that's the low rye mash and the K yeast strain, and then the OESO low rye mash and the O yeast strain and the OBSF, which is what we're actually sipping on because I went out and bought a bottle. That's their high rye mash and their F yeast strain, yielding delicate rye and herbal notes. It's very herbally. I like it, but this is my flavor profile. How do you like it?
It's interesting. It's very herbaceous.
Very herbaceous. It almost tastes a little bit medicinal, and I had to drop some water into it.
I did too.
Which helped. But it's very different than the other ones that we tasted on the episode 79, part 2.
You wouldn't think they could be as different as they are, but they're all so different.
Yeah. And that's just the yeast strain.
This is delicious, actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
MSRP for these is $50. And the proof is 100, as you said.
If you're wondering, what should I take to a party? End the sentence with 4 roses and you're not going to be disappointed.
That's right. The next one we have is a strange one, a House of Tamworth Spruce and Goose whiskey. Tamworth Distiller, maker of weird, wilderness-inspired whiskeys in New Hampshire, is well known for its daring approach to crafting small batch spirits, including using ingredients such as venison, trout, turkey, green crabs, which we actually reported on back in July of 2022, and the secretions from the anal glands of beavers.
Oh my God.
That's true. And now they're back with a spruce, pine, and goose flavored whiskey.
Oh my God.
No age statement. The mash is not disclosed. Evergreen forest, game bird, tobacco, and plum with a mouthfeel and viscosity akin to a fat wash cocktail. The MSRP is $65 for a 200 milliliter bottle.
Well, they'll never get my money.
No, I'm not getting that. I'm not getting anywhere near that. And not just because of the anal.
That's right.
The next one is High West Tequila Finished Rye. High West Whiskey announced in conjunction with Casa Noble Tequila that the brands were partnering up to release a limited edition rye whiskey called the Noble Share, finished in Marqués de Casa Noble Añejo barrels and Ambarana casks. It's 104 proof, 4 to 10 years aged. It's a mix of their 95.5 rye from MGP and their own rye, 80% rye, 20% malted rye. Ripe mango, spiced apple cider, mesquite, freshly fried churro, orange blossom, black licorice, pink peppercorns, and dark agave honey. The MSRP is $180.
Wow. None of that really appeals to me, though. I'm not a tequila finish guy. I'm not a rye guy, so I'm all right.
I'd try it if somebody said, hey, you try this.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to everything concerning whiskey.
Yes. Welcome to Whiskey, Scott.
The only reason I've ever had Lafroy and Arbe.
The next one, I just thought this was kind of fun. This isn't really a new expression, just new labeling. Johnnie Walker Black Label Squid Game Edition. Scotch giant Johnnie Walker has unveiled new limited edition green packaging for their Black Label whiskey in collaboration with the popular Netflix show Squid Game in celebration of the series' second season debut just last week. Not only does the label sport a walking man wearing a green jumpsuit, but each bottle bears a different number between 001 and 456, just like the contestants wear while participating and dying in the show's dangerous games. 80 proof, 12 years aged, it's malt grain whiskey. We know what it tastes like. MSRP is still $35.
Hey, fun. Doesn't bother me.
No.
I love Squid Game. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
I may be ashamed that I liked it, but I liked it. I watched every episode and couldn't wait for it to come out.
That was really cool. The second season's going to be great.
There's even a game show one that came out with real people.
I saw that.
It was interesting. I watched it. I loved
Did
it.
you?
I liked it better.
Oh, really?
I liked it better because it was real, and they modified some of the games. You thought you knew a game was coming, it would be different. So some were exactly the same.
Yeah.
And some were completely different.
Oh, interesting. So the next one is Larceny Barrel Proof Bourbon C924. Heaven Hill unveiled the latest batch of its beloved Barrel Proof Larceny, the latest release of 2024. It's 125.1 proof, 6 to 8 years aged, 68% corn, 20% rye, 12% malted barley, cocoa powder, cinnamon stick, barrel char, toasted walnut, chocolate, coffee, caramel, clove, nutmeg, rye spice, and black pepper. The MSRP is $65. I got it at the Heaven Hill Distillery in Kentucky for $80, and I saw it on the shelf at Total Wine for $9. $1.90.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got a deal, and that's why I wanted it.
I just poured myself some just to be, scientific.
Yeah, not that I didn't taste this. Oh, yeah, this is so good. I like this better than the Four Roses.
Well, I mean, it's not fair to compare the two. One's your traditional single barrel, $50, 100 proof. This is 100 and what? 20?
125.1.
Yeah, so it's 25% hotter. It's a weeded bourbon.
This is so good.
Yeah.
And there's almost none left because I've been drinking it.
Yeah, Scott,
but coming back to it after the Four Roses.
So, like, I have 45 bottles in my house. Scott has 3 bottles and drinks the shit out of them.
Yeah, I do.
Like, he just beats them to death and goes get new bottles.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I don't open many, but when I do, I finish them all.
Yeah.
So here's one for you, Ed. The Mary Dowling Winter Wheat Bourbon.
Shut up.
Yeah. So the Mary Dowling brand launched.
I love that.
Yeah, launched in 2023 by Rabbit Hole's Cave Zamanian, is named after the Prohibition-era distiller who relocated her operations to Mexico from where she smuggled whiskey across the
We
border.
told that story in episode 2.
Yeah.
Of the Kentucky trip.
That's right. Joining double oaked and tequila finished bourbons, this is the brand's third expression, which was aged in barrels that were both toasted and charred. It's 91 proof, 4 years aged, 65% corn, 25% winter wheat, and 10% malted barley. These tasting notes are crazy. Strawberries, frosted flakes, maple donuts, whipped cream, sugared almonds, raspberries, shortbread cookies, and waffle cone. MSRP is $55.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely try that.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
Just because I love her story so much.
Yeah, I know, right? So we got 3 more.
Right.
Old Granddad, 16 year.
So they found a couple barrels
Yeah.
way up in the rick house.
That's right.
Like, they're like, oh shit, these are still here?
Yeah, Old Granddad. Beam Distilling's Old Granddad, a High-Rye Kentucky bourbon, has debuted a one-off ultra-aged whiskey complete with a new bottle and old-timey label whose age and price are a complete departure for the brand. 100 proof, 16 years aged, 63% corn, 27% rye, 10% malted barley, snickerdoodles, caramel candies, nutmeg, vanilla bean, hot cinnamon, dehydrated herbs, Christmas fruitcake, and fennel. The MSRP is $195.
Wow. See, that's a little unnecessary.
But this is one-off. Like you said, I think they found some barrels and they said, this is it. This is all we got.
Right. I mean, I'm being a dick. It shouldn't be less than 150.
Yeah, agreed.
It really shouldn't be because it's 16 years old.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always mean it's better.
No,
for
it
the
doesn't.
record, it could be over oaked. You don't know.
Absolutely.
But good for them. Once again, it's them putting out an interesting something to get attention.
Right. That's what we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely.
So another Beam Distilling, the Old Overholt Extra Aged Cask Strength 11-year Straight Rye.
Now, that was in the gift shop.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
That was in the gift shop, but it was 110, and we already spent $275 to go to the dinner that night.
Same old story, right?
Yeah, so it's like,
So Beam Distilling's other old brand, the Rye One, has also released higher age statement expression with a similarly old-timey label. It's both a continuation of Old Overholt's Cask Strength line, which debuted last November with a 10-year rye, and a revamping of their limited 2020 release, an 11-year rye, which at the time was touted as the oldest Old Overholt ever released. It's 107.4 proof, 11 years aged, 80% rye, 20% malted barley, vanilla custard, birthday cake, baked apples and pears, clove, nutmeg, candied ginger, tobacco, leather, barrel char, and mint. MSRP is $100.
100. Yeah, so remember they said that the gift shop's going to be a little higher?
Yes.
So they pumped it up $10 because they have to charge more by Kentucky law.
Like this one, maybe I'd buy now. Not at the gift shop like you're saying, because we were buying all kinds of other stuff. But
We just bought a $60 Knob Creek bottle, which we filled ourselves, which was cool. So we had a lot of money going out of Jim Beam that day. Yes. So I just made us go, we still have tomorrow.
Right. All right, and the last one we have, Stranahan's Mountain Angel 12-year American single malt. When Stranahan's debuted Mountain Angel in 2020, it was billed as the first ever 10-year-old American single malt. Now the Colorado distillery is upping the age by 2 years and finishing it for a short time in port casks. 94.6 proof, 12 years aged, 100% malted barley. Tropical fruit, dark cherry, strawberry preserves, fried sage, dried rosemary, jasmine, orchard fruit, lemon drop candy, vanilla donuts.
I'm going to guess the price.
Light toffee, menthol, wintergreen, spiced pineapple, dark caramel, and vanilla extract. MSRP?
$145.
$100.
Oh, wow.
Ed's going right now.
For a 12-year? Oh, my God, absolutely. Because I know their Diamond Peak or whatever is like 90.
Yeah.
So I figured this might be like
a little higher
than that. Yeah,
I agree, but like 100 is pretty good. Yeah, so that's all the whiskeys that you can buy this month. The next thing we do is what's coming up on the podcast. So because we shifted our Christmas bonus episode and this news episode to Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, nothing's coming out this particular Friday, January 3rd, but we'll be going back to the Friday releases after that. And so January 10th, we're doing the quick taste of Knob Creek Bourbon times Rye, which we already teased.
Yep.
January 17th, we have episode 80 featuring cocktails that we tried on our Kentucky trip. We're going to do that with Marty and Rachel.
Very excited.
On the 24th, we're doing a bonus quick taste, the Pinhook Vertical 9-year.
Yeah.
Our 5th in a row for the Pinhook. On the 31st, there's going to be no podcast. On February 7th, we're going to do episode 81. We're not sure which episode we're going to do yet. Whoever gets back to Ed first when he reaches out to them. On the 14th, we're going to do a whiskey short. Again, not sure what we're going to do. And on the 21st, we'll be right back here doing the news for January and February. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year, and keep listening and keep drinking whiskey. We had a kind of convoluted schedule, and we're going to be back in a routine, and before you know it, we'll be having our Whiskey Madness, which will be in March, and then the sky's the limit. Who knows? We're hoping to have some people that we talked to Kentucky. We're hoping to do some episodes with the distillers that we visited.
Right.
So for the Whiskey Tangent Podcast, thanks for listening. I'm Ed.
I'm Scott.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
Later.